Welcome to Change the Narrative. I'm your host, JD Fuller,
I'm Susie Younger.
an African-American licensed psychotherapist.
I'm also a licensed therapist.
We talk about the isms. We talk about the phobias, anything that marginalizes and oppresses.
As a white woman, I ask the questions white people are too afraid to ask.
Everything we are not and everything we are is because of fear.
Through a mental health lens, Susie and I will have difficult conversations with celebrity guests, political activists, and everyone in between.
Our mind will tell us whatever we want to believe, but the truth lives in the body, and that's where change occurs.
Are you ready to change the narrative?
Anthony Elden is self-described as a progressive Democrat, a history teacher, a change maker, a social media content creator, and a community builder. He has campaigned and is currently running his own social media channels and platforms. Tony has been able to develop social media community building skills such as copywriting, marketing, advertising, community engagement management, and much more. Tony is always teaching and helping us to learn. He is critical race theory. Welcome, Anthony Tony Elden.
Hi, Tony.
Hello.
It's so nice to meet you.
Likewise.
You know, I was just telling my producer that, I don't get excited about celebrities. I get excited about people like you.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, so I'm super excited that you were so easy to get on. Thank you so much for, not making me chase you as long as I have to chase some people.
Well, thank you. I thank you for the reminder. Yeah, no, I'm happy to be here. Yeah, for sure.
All right, awesome. So the first thing I want to do is kind of go back and get some of your background because you're just so interesting to me. So where are you from originally?
I'm a Southern boy. I'm a son of the South. I'm from Florida.
Okay.
So that's where I'm from, Tampa Bay, or recently Champa Bay. You may have seen all of our championships coming down there.
That's right. That's right. And so, how has your upbringing informed who you are today?
Well, part of my life actually, I spent in the Bahamas because that's where my family's from, the Bahamas. And then they immigrated to Florida.
Okay.
And so I spent part of my elementary years there in the Bahamas, where and because what I do is I teach history. But I teach history the way I like to teach history. So anyways, but all the history you learn in the Bahamas is primarily Black history. Well, there's a lot of British history, don't get me wrong.
Okay.
But as far as the Bahamian history goes, you learn about Black people because that's what the Bahamas is.
Okay.
And then I come here, and I live here. I go to middle school here in the U.S. and I'm like, that don't sound like the good stuff. Like, where's the good stuff at? And then I'm like, where's all the Black teachers? There's like no Black teachers.
Wow.
Because in the Bahamas, every single teacher is Black.
Wow.
So there was just a couple of things that kind of like pushed me to become a teacher myself, as well as to teach history, and then to do it online.
Okay, so I have to back up now because if I had known you were a son of immigrants, that would have changed everything because that makes so much more sense to me now. So what was it like? What were the messages from immigration?
So my father is from the Bahamas, and actually for a large part of my life, I didn't even know that my father was like undocumented.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, he was for a large part, like high school is when I found out.
Wow.
And I was like, no, he worked hard, and it wasn't something that he let, stop his taking care of us. To the point where, like I said, I didn't even know.
So how did you find out? How did the secret get out?
He got his residency card.
Are you kidding me? That's how you found out?
Yeah. And I was like, because he was so proud of it, he was like, look, son, look. And I was like, wait, were you not a resident before?
That is hysterical.
Yeah. Funnily enough, right? Isn't that crazy?
Yeah, that's absolutely wild. So how many kids are in your family?
So my parents currently are divorced. So I have, my bio dad, stepmom, bio mom, and new stepdad.
Okay.
The totality From both bio parents is 7. From bio parents and step brothers / sisters that are now in the family, I think it's like 9.
Okay.
Me being the oldest of all.
What?
Yeah,
And
no,
the
Christmas
oldest?
sucks.
And the oldest. Wow. So what kind of lessons did you try to, hand down, having been the first in line?
It's so funny. So the youngest, the baby of the group is 7 now. She was born when I was 18.
Okay.
So, and at that time, I'm also a very conscious adult. I'm conscious of kind of what I would like if I ever had a kid, how to raise them and whatnot. So my baby sister, Kalina, I kind of treated her like I would treat as if I had my own child. And, I wanted her to be proud of where she came from and proud of her skin and everything. So her entire life, I have only ever bought her black dolls. Only ever. And I remember once my dad bought her a non-black doll, and I was like, Dad, take it away. Like, return it. And nothing against non-black dolls, but I wanted her to play with and see herself in what she had, And I remember this so clearly because it was like everything came full circle for me. It was 2 years ago. It's Christmas, Barbara's back in town. I pick baby girl up and I'm like, all right, we're going to go to Walmart. We're going to get you a Christmas gift because I'm a bit like, I haven't shopped yet. And she's like, all right, let's go, Barbara. So we're in the car, we get to Walmart and we're in the doll section. And I'm like, Kalina, pick any doll you want. I'm going to buy it. I don't care which, just pick any one. And she points at the biggest set of dolls. And she's like, can I have one of those? And I was like, yeah, you can have one of those. The biggest set, there's like, these are like life-size dolls.
Okay.
Like they're standing up and they're her height. And she points at the specific one she wants. And it's a beautiful dark-skinned doll. And I said, Kalina, why'd you pick that doll? And she said, Barbara, it's the prettiest one.
Oh.
I said, oh my gosh.
Your work is done here.
Exactly. I was like, this is what I wanted.
That is amazing.
And then $95 later, she got her doll.
That is a great story. That's a great story. Thank you for that. So what kind of student were you?
Actually, believe it or not, I'm a class clown. Even as a teacher. Yeah, even as a teacher, I'm a class clown.
So talk about that class clownishness. What did it look like for your teachers?
Yeah, so in the Bahamas, it was a bit more controlled because I'm also incredibly intelligent, and I let the accolades talk. I won't, but I'm also incredibly intelligent. And when I was in Bahamas, it's harder to be a class clown because if you ever take it too far, the teachers can beat you. You know what I mean?
Wow.
Yeah, I know. So I remember once I can't remember what I did. I think I just like played a prank or something or whatever. And I remember it like it was yesterday. I just like, they're like, oh yeah, go to the principal's office. And the principal loved me, adored me. I'm like the number 3 student in the school. So she absolutely loved me. She was like, yeah, I'm not gonna lie, this one was just a bit too far. And I was like, that's fair. And the way it worked is, they had like these rulers and the ends of the rulers are like covered in duct tape. Yeah. Don't get me wrong. I loved my education in the Bahamas. I don't mind. Help me be a better me, I guess.
Yeah, I get it. I get
and
that.
And then like just slap on the hand. I'm like, whoa, that hurt. But when I got to the US, right? And I'm like, oh, they don't beat kids here. So I'm like, I can do what I want to do. So I remember it was the 3rd day of middle school, 8th grade. And there's this kid who, I can't remember what he was doing, but he was being annoying. And I was like, and then I started making fun of him, I'm class clown. So I'm like, man, calm down, you're so annoying. Oh. And then the kid gets up, and so I get up. And I'm like, oh, teachers can't beat people here, it's whatever. Yeah. So I get up. And then the kids, and they were like, we don't really fight, but there's a push. And now we have to go to the principal's office, right? And this is a word of advice to anyone who was in this situation. Make sure that your uncle is not the principal, because you will still get beat in school. It's crazy, you know what I mean? Like, I'm in the principal's office. He's like, "Oh, don't worry, because I'm gonna call you dad. And we both gonna take care of you." And I'm like, "Okay, uncle, man. I'm sorry, uncle."
Oh my God. Did you learn your lesson?
I did learn my lesson. I don't know what it was about that situation, but I never, for the rest of my high school career, even thought about fighting anyone. I was no longer a hothead. I was still a class clown, but I found my barriers and my boundaries, and I stuck to them.
Yeah.
And I was also, again, incredibly academic. I was pretty high up in the school rankings at every school, so they never really, I never really got in too much trouble.
Well, look, getting beat down in the principal's office will definitely
That definitely set you straight, huh?
change your ways. I don't judge what other countries do. The fact that you're telling me you got beat like that in Bahamas, look, it's not my experience. I don't know. So I respect that the culture is the culture. That would freak me out, but because I wasn't raised that way, clearly. Right?
Yeah.
So wait, I'm going to shift gears a little bit to your career. So you taught in middle school in Florida. Is that correct?
Yes.
You did that for a couple of years, and then you started teaching in DC. Talk about that transition and what that was like for you.
Yeah. So I'm married, high school sweetheart.
Oh.
Yeah, believe it or not, since the 11th grade.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah, we both graduated high school together and college together. And then she got a master's while I went into working right away. But so she actually is the reason we even moved down here. She was like, "Hey, I really want to explore before we settle down and buy houses and whatnot in one area." Notice the S at the end of houses.
Yeah.
So cool. All right, I'm cool with that, love. Where are we gonna go? Well, I actually want to work for the State Department, so we're gonna go to DC.
What a change.
Okay. Wow. All right. A couple thousand miles away. Sure. I thought you meant like Miami, All right. So now we're in DC, and she already had her job lined up. She's awesome like that. Me, I'm here, and I'm like, I have no idea what I'm gonna do. And so I needed to find something, and I found this school. Believe it or not, I don't know if I'm allowed to say the school's name, so I won't. But I'll talk about the school. And it's a wonderful school. It's an adult education center for students that did not pass high school the first time.
Okay.
And being that DC is a heavily Black populated city, I kid you not, like 99.9% of the school body is Black.
Wow.
And even that's also reflected in the faculty. The vast majority of the faculty is also Black, which I think was not by design, but is beneficial because the students can they have examples.
Right.
And when I say like adult center, please understand, I don't mean like 17, 18. We do have 17-year-olds, 18-year-olds. I think our youngest is 16, but the oldest to date was 77 years old.
What?
Yes, and the reason because we asked her, you're 77. Why come back to high school? Because it is essentially a high school, and they get their high school diploma, not a GED, their high school diploma. But so why are you coming back to high school? You're 77. You've already completed the game. You know what I mean?
Right.
And she said, well, my mom always wanted me to get a high school diploma, but my parents were akin to sharecroppers.
Wow.
So we couldn't. I had to, be at home and work with the family. But now that I'm retired and all this, that, I'm gonna get my degree, my diploma. And I'm like, you know what? You get that diploma. Like you do that.
That is powerful. How did the other students respond to her? How did they respond to her?
I have no clue.
Okay.
That was more of a, well, actually, that's what was told to me.
Okay, that's a good story.
Yeah. And I mean, there are tons of other students that have like crazy, like, wow, stories.
Yeah.
There's this one woman who is from Sierra Leone.
Mm-hmm.
And coming here from Sierra Leone, none of her high school credits, I think, transferred or anything.
Oh, that's crazy.
Exactly. So she's 20 years old, so she's still pretty young. So she came back and now she's, doing the thing again. And I'm like, that's power to you.
Yeah, for sure.
And then we have another woman, 50 something, I can't remember her exact age, who she comes from Montgomery County, I'm sorry, no, PG County, which is a county next to DC in Maryland.
Mm-hmm.
And PG County actually lost her credits and her
Come on.
transcript. So because she doesn't have any documentation that she went to high school and graduated with a diploma, she's doing it all over again. But you know what is insane about that, though?
That's insane about that.
Yeah, that's insane about that. But she actually is really living it up.
Wow.
She's so happy to be back. She's like, you know what? I know I did this already, but I feel like so much has changed from, when I was in school 30 plus years ago to now, that I still feel like I'm learning so much.
More.
And I'm like, I honestly would be incensed. I would be.
I'd quit all over again.
Exactly. But she is like, heck yeah, I'm gung ho about it. I'm excited.
That's amazing. So obviously there's a chronological difference in what you've taught, the age you've taught before.
Yeah.
What would you say that you've learned between the two experiences now?
Middle school and adults?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, there's not much of a difference. No, adults are great. And with adults, you don't have to sugarcoat anything.
That's true.
But I've noticed that, and I'm at fault of this too.
Mm-hmm.
Adults can be pretty childish.
Sure.
And because you are also an adult, it also kind of makes you look back at some of your own tendencies. Like, wait, do I do that? And I'm like, sure enough, I do that. So I would say they've also kind of humbled me or helped me do some of my own self-reflection, and also, help me not judge people, because you really don't know what people go through. You know what I mean? And there are people that are going through some tough stuff that are, trying to better themselves, and I can't fault them.
And the heartbreak about DC, Chocolate City, I love DC. But there's not a lot of opportunities for people to come up. It's super expensive. The system doesn't work, as much as it doesn't everywhere else, but in the capital, you would hope it would be a little bit different, and it's not.
Exactly.
So it's so heartbreaking, So I respect anybody who's trying to find a come up there that's trying to better their own lives. I mean, that's pretty incredible. And that's awesome. They have you as a role model and a peer. I'm sure you've taught your colleagues a lot as well.
Oh, yes. I am the baby at the school. I'm the baby on staff, the youngest. Okay. Even these students are like, Mr. E, I got children older than you, Mr. E. And I'm
That's
like,
funny.
Well, I guess, cool.
Okay, so I heard that you ran for office, or you have. What's the story with that? Because I could definitely see you in a political position. I definitely see that.
Yeah,
tell us about that.
So I ran for office in Florida during the 2020 election. I was running for state senate, and the reason, because I originally wasn't even in the race, but the person on my side of the ticket was had to abdicate the race due to COVID, getting to their family and all kinds of stuff, and she was an amazing candidate. I really respect her. And the courage she had to leave the race, because that is not an easy thing to do.
Right.
But she left in August of 2020. So, at this point, there's about 2.5 months to election day. Mm-hmm. And my side of the ticket is like, we need someone to fill the seat. More so than we need a candidate. We don't even care if the candidate can win. We just cannot have an empty ballot.
Okay.
And I do have political aspirations. So, and then my side of the ticket, they knew that. So actually they contacted me directly and was like, we want you to do this. And we don't care if you win, but you need the experience because you're going to come back and you're going to do this later and you got to know what it's like. So this is experience for you. And I was like, you know what? You're right. I'm going to do it, but I'm also going to shoot to win. You know what I mean? It's cool. But there's 2 months left and I don't care who you are. You cannot run a campaign in 2 months.
That sounds impossible.
It is, but I did my best. And I like to think that I made the impossible possible. I raised $25,000. My opponent had like 400, almost $500,000. So, it is what it is. But he's been running for 2 years at this point. I knocked doors, gave out pamphlets, all kinds of things. I did my best. Mind you, I had a full-time job at the time because I was teaching. And it was an insane and like stressful and fast-paced 2 months. Luckily though, I'm good at digital things. And since politics is moving more digital as a whole, I had a leg up.
Okay.
I ran ads. I did all kinds of things. I did my best to kind of, put myself in the forefront. And I succeeded for the most part. In fact, I got 40% of the vote when I was originally forecasted to get only 22%.
That's incredible.
Exactly. And even after that, I got the 11th highest vote type total of all of the people across the state running in my specific seat as a state senator. Mind you, I'm beating people that were running for more than a year and had much more money than me. So I like to think that I did dang good, or at least the best I could do.
Yeah.
But I did not win, sadly, but I did my best. I left everything out there, and I remember the number because it was just insane to me. It was 122,042 votes.
Wow.
Yes, my mom and my wife were there. I was like crying. I was like, yo, I don't even know that many people. Like this is like this is insane. Mind you, I am a Black man who was running in like Florida, but not like Florida, like Southern Florida, you know what I mean? Yeah. I'm out in, and I don't know if anyone knows these areas, but Bradenton and Sarasota and Lower Hillsborough, which is like more like a Ruskin and a Gibsonton, out in just more southern and heavily conservative areas.
Wow.
I mean, heavily conservative.
That's unbelievable.
Yeah.
So how are you going to keep this going? I mean, what are the next steps? Because you can't let the fire go out.
Yeah, exactly. So I actually, for a while, I was like, I'm going to do something more. But then I got so caught up in doing something more, I was forgetting to live. So I was like, you know what? I'm going to slow down.
Okay.
I have the rest of my life. There's no need for me to rush into it. I'm going to go to DC with my wife. I'm going to use that time in DC to calm myself, to live my life, to build out my social media presence, which I've done, I'm done and doing. And when I get back to Florida, I'm going to go to law school. I'm going to get back in the game, and I'm going to win.
That's awesome. Really?
Yeah.
That's incredible. I can see it. I really see it happening. That's such a great plan. You're young, you have time, you're in the right place to network and to figure out how to do it. That's amazing. I love that. Okay, so let's talk about the book. You are the author of 50 Inspiring Black Stories. Please talk about that.
Yeah. So I did write that book. It's crazy. I wrote that book a while ago, actually. And when I first wrote it, I remember because I was just so proud of this. I only published it on Amazon. I should have published it more places, but I only published it on Amazon.
Okay.
And when I published it, I actually was the #1 new release for 3 months there. And I was like, yo, this is insane.
It really is.
So I was very happy about that. And I, you know, yeah, it was, I had a good time writing. I actually, my favorite part of the book was working with the illustrator to draw out the character, or not characters, but the people that the book talks about. That was really fun because I've written about history plenty of times, but I've never gotten to like draw what I envision history to look like, as well as, you know, what those people look like. And I hope that me and the illustrator did those people justice, those icons justice. But that was probably the most fun thing. And I'm actually working on another project now, believe it or not.
I believe it. I absolutely believe it. That's great. So were these 50 characters or stories of people that you admired? How did you pick the stories?
They were just people that blew my mind.
Okay, fair.
Yeah, people that just blew my mind. For example, there's I need to remember, I think her name is Wangari Maathai. I think that's how you say her name. She planted 51 million trees. She has over 16 doctorates.
What?
Yes. Yes.
You got to get this book. I was so happy to see that you had a book. I was like, oh, I definitely have to get this. I'm already fascinated by you. So this is just going to take me deeper into exploration of how your mind works.
Yeah. So and that's just, and you know, it's funny because to my sisters and other family members, they're like, you know, that's cool, but you know, it's not like shocking. But to me, I read that when I first found out, and I was like, how? Like, how did you do this? And mind you, not only does she plant 51 million trees, that's an M, million, she has 16 doctorates.
I mean,
but for I can't remember how long, but she was also one of the prime environmentalists that were advisors to the UN. So she was internationally recognized. Even, and I'm not making this up, even the Girl Scouts recognized her and gave her an award.
I'm fascinated. I'm fascinated because there's so much we don't know. And whenever I look on your platform, there's always 1 out of 5 things I didn't know that I'm so grateful for. And we're going to get to that, but I want to take a step back for a minute because you seem to have such a clear vision for your life. It seems like thus far, the vision's been so clear. And I'm fascinated by that because at your age and younger, I was still trying to figure out what path I was going to take. What do you attribute that to?
Believe it or not, and you're going to say you believe it. But when I was young, when I was like, ever since I could talk, I don't know what it was that made me want this, but ever since I could talk, I was like, Mom and Dad, I am going to be the first Black president. That's what I told my parents, and they were like, yeah, sure. Yeah. But, you know, over time, like going to elementary school, I really believed it myself and I really like pushed for it. And like, I'm coming home and I'm telling my parents, did you guys know about the 14th Amendment? Did you guys know that election day is on Tuesdays? You know, and I'm like, they're like, yeah, Tony, we know. But then 2008 came around. Mind you, I'm still telling my parents, I'm going to be the first Black president. 2008 comes around. And Obama crashes and burns my dreams. Everyone's like, Obama! And I'm like, I don't like him. I don't like that guy.
That is great. You have such great stories. You're a good storyteller, Tony.
Thank you. You have to be to be a history teacher.
Yeah, this is true. This is true. And so you were into history from as far back as you can remember. That's just been your thing.
Yes.
I have a lot of respect. I have a lot of respect. My brother was a history teacher and he always was so filled with knowledge. So I have a lot of respect for the field. I definitely do.
Yes. And that's also part of the thing is like, you know, I saw, well, I still want to be the first Black president. You know,
Yeah,
that dream has never died just because it can literally no longer happen. Doesn't mean that I have forgotten or given up.
Yeah, for sure.
But every time I kind of saw something that I just wanted to pursue, I pursued it. And that has led me to do a lot of different things, but it has also led me, and this is something that a lot of people don't see, it's also led me to kind of forget about things that I have, you know, said I wanted to do. So for example, I wanted to write my first book, but around that same time, I wanted to make a YouTube channel to talk about Black history. But I was like, you know what? Let's start with the book. And then I forgot about the YouTube channel. Now, as time progressed, I do eventually come back to everything I said I wanted to do, and the project I'm working on right now is actually a comic book because I said I wanted to make a comic book, a Black history comic book.
Oh, that's great.
But I also, like I said, wanted to start my own YouTube channel. So I actually have my own YouTube channel now, and I'm happy to report that I don't know what happened. I just kind of like skyrocketed, but I have like almost 15,000 subscribers now, and I'm just so like thankful and happy about that. I have I think 2 videos that have gotten over 1 million views, and I'm like, that's insane.
No, it's not. You're underestimating who you are. I'm telling you, your draw is so powerful. You're interesting. You also have a strong personality. You know, people don't know these things. I mean, they're not learning it in school, and it's heartbreaking. So, you know, there's a thirst for education, and so the fact that you bring it, you know, in the way in which you do, I think it's just inviting. So I'm not surprised. That's amazing, though. Congratulations.
Yeah, I'm very happy about it. I'm still floored, and like I said, I try to be a very humble person, and I like to think that I am. And I promise you, I normally never talk about my accomplishments unless it's like an interview where I'm, you know, supposed to.
Right.
But I'm just incredibly thankful about all of it. You know, like growing up, I always thought I'd be not necessarily like a celebrity or a famous person, but I always believed that I would make a mark, and everything I've done is to make a mark and to help people. So I've just been really thankful to be able to pursue that in the way that I have.
You have a voice that needs to be heard. You have something to say. And again, you know, this is representative of it. So congratulations again. I'm super happy for you.
Thank you.
But let's talk about your platforms a little bit. So February 2020, you started Black Thought.
Yes.
Right. And your platforms are so important. And so that's one of the reasons I'm so eager to have you on the show. You seem to cover mostly socio-political issues, history, social justice, and current events, but you do it all through a cultural lens. What was your process in doing that first?
So believe it or not, and it's funny because my platform is named Black Thought. And I kid you not, I did not know about the rapper Black Thought before, you know, the platform.
Okay.
So when I found out about him, I was like, oh man, he took my name. But I only bring that up to say that I've always thought as a Black man, I wanted my perspective as well as, you know, I won't say all of my people's perspective because I don't believe that I'm indicative of all Black people, but I've wanted to provide my perspective, and for those that are in my community that think like me, their perspective on things, and from a historical standpoint and from a political standpoint, because there are a lot of things. I mean, there are a lot of things going on politically nowadays that are just absolutely horrendous and mind-boggling, and you know, and you don't see that in news. You know what I mean? The closest you get to news covered from a Black perspective is like Don Lemon. And don't get me wrong, Don's cool.
Yeah.
You know, no shade, but I wanted to provide my own and my, I guess, my section of the Black community's unfiltered,
Yeah, that's it.
unmonitored
That's it.
perspective to news.
That's the thing, right? Because as soon as you become a part of this corporate machine, you don't have that unfiltered perspective. So that's what's so amazing about growing your platform the way that you do, is that people really get to hear something that is just clear and you know, sort of visceral. I mean, the way that you offer it. So that's the amazing part. I love that. And so the choosing your topics, how do you choose what topics you're going to present? Because that's another part of your process.
Yeah, actually, believe it or not, that is so on the history front, that is incredibly hard to do. Incredibly hard. There is, for every single post, there's at least 2 to 3 hours of research.
Oh, I'm sure.
And it is, especially when you have a full-time job and you're doing other projects and whatnot, it is incredibly tough. But I look for things that are uplifting. I look for things that are sadly the ugly truth. I look for things that are shocking and shocking in a good way, like just surprising, like, oh, that's a fun fact, I didn't know that.
Right.
I look for things that are incredibly sad. I look for things that are almost too coincidental.
Okay, I love that.
And I look for things that are honestly sometimes really subtle, and believe it or not, I don't expect to do good, but I still feel like it's important enough for me to share.
Okay.
And then sometimes those things do good,
Right.
even though they are incredibly subtle, and I, you know, is what it is. And then sometimes, and then on the news front, it is what issues affect us and how do they affect us? Is that worth covering? And the news is easier to do research on because, you know, it's here, it's now, versus, you know, looking up documents from 2,000 years ago on what happened in Egypt, or what anthropological thing went down in off the coast of Bimini in Bahamas, or you know what I mean?
Yeah, sure.
So it can get a little, it's easier to do the news, harder to do the history, but I think the history is just as important as the news.
Absolutely.
And I think covering them both helps me maintain a good schedule without drowning in work.
Oh, that sounds like a nice balance. That's really well thought out. And you know, the history that you do bring to your platforms, again, I mean, I'd swear, like 1, 2 out of 5, I didn't know. And I'm super excited to see. So your instincts are great. I mean, that's really, you know, incredible. It's you're a natural at it for sure. So in that vein, what is the most pressing issue on your mind today, and why?
The most pressing issue on my mind, that is a tough one.
I know. So many.
There's a lot. I'll talk this from different standpoints. So on an economical standpoint, one of the things that are like really important to me that I think are kind of underrated, but are something we should focus more on, is Black home ownership. You know, I'm all for Black business, you know, go get your LLC, you know, do your thing, you know what I'm saying? But home ownership has been, by and large, the primary mode of wealth building and generational wealth. And like I said earlier, you know, I want to buy houses.
Right.
I have my own business. I do things through my platforms to make money, but I want to buy my own houses because those are, you know, generational wealth, essentially. Especially if you keep them. I was watching something the other day about this a man who lives in the Bronx who bought his house in, I can't remember what year, but for $24,000, I believe, or $27,000. And right now his home is worth $2 million. That's wealth. That is wealth. Passing that down, you were setting your family up to have better circumstances.
So hard to do these days with
It is.
regionally.
Yes, that's the catch-22. That is the catch-22.
We need to go back and buy up the South.
I agree. I one day I want my 40 acres. That's all I'm saying.
I'm telling you, that's the way to do it.
Yeah, I would not mind in my older years. I would not mind having just a big old ranch. You know, getting out of the city life.
Yeah,
riding four-wheelers on my own property.
After you run for office.
Exactly. So yeah, I definitely, as far as wealth goes, I think that's my biggest concern. Okay. As far as politics goes, I would love to see some of the systemic issues just be dismantled. You know, I'd love to see us get our own bill, which we did get the anti-lynching bill.
How many years later? It's
exactly 200 plus years in the waiting.
I can't even honor it. I mean, I'm happy for Emmett Till's family, but it's disgusting as far as I'm concerned.
Exactly. It took way too long. Yeah. Crazily too long. But you know, as far as other things, like I want there to be a hate crime bill or hate crime reform. I want there to be police reform, which is another systemic thing. Gun reform, yes, you know, and that also goes to the safety of Black people. I think for the safety of Black people, we need things like gun reform and police reform, but I also think that we need things like poverty reform.
Yeah, right.
You know, because, yeah, we had a war against poverty, and I don't know if you know, but our track record is like 0-1. You know, poverty is kicking our butt at every stage.
Look, the problem is that poverty makes rich people money.
Yeah.
And, you know, how do you convince people to change something that actually improves their financial status? That's a tough one.
And it sucks because it is expensive to be poor.
Expensive to be poor.
It is crazy, and I think, you know, a lot of the issues in the Black community stem from poverty. And don't get me wrong, we systemically were put into poverty through the after effects of slavery, through Jim Crow, through the war on drugs. You know, I don't fault. I mean, I don't disregard the system's part in that, but I want us to kind of, you know, get back on our feet almost, or actually not even get back on our feet, get on our feet as a community. And I think, believe it or not, I'm so thankful for this generation, my generation, because I feel like we are really not out. I don't want to say starting, but really pushing for it.
You know, look, people my age need it. We're tired. You know, when I see you young people on the platforms doing what you're doing, I get so excited. I don't even have a reason to say anything. I just like to repost and bring you on, because to me, it's like, you're the only hope I have. You know, I mean, I also teach professionals, and those two fronts are really important. Like, one of the things our community has to do is we have to find ways to defy racial trauma. We have to defy racial trauma. And so when you say get on our feet, part of that is trying to figure out how to stay healthy emotionally and physically, you know, amidst the genocide, the literal genocide that's occurring. So it is no fault of our own. I don't care what anybody says, it's no fault of our own. And we have to find a way to get these supports to the community in order to strengthen that base, because you all have to take it on, and I don't want to see you burn out.
And that's part of it too, the burnout, you know. I think there's like generational burnout right now.
You're right.
You know, because like this is not for me, it's not a 25-year fight.
Right.
You know, this is a 200+ year fight.
Exactly.
So
but you also carry it, you know.
Yeah.
Like, don't fool yourself. Even though you haven't been at it, you still, that intergenerational burden is felt
on the shoulders.
Yeah, for sure.
And I think it's amazing nowadays how, my generation, because when I say my generation, I will specify I am the first year of Gen Z, 1997.
Okay.
But Gen Z is really, in my mind, they're really cringy. They do a lot of weird things. The humor is different, because even though I'm not the first year of it, so I'm a bit dissociated from the humor. But nonetheless, like, Gen Z is really like activism based. Like, that is Gen Z's thing. We're like, oh yeah, this sucks, and we want this to change like yesterday. It's insane to me, and I'm so here for it.
Because for so long it seemed like younger people just weren't getting the impact of what's happening until it was right in their face in social media. So
yeah, my parents don't even vote. I'm the first. When I ran, that was the first time my parents voted.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. So that in and of itself kind of showed me that, not that this has been something that we've, not cared about during their generation or generations before, but it shows me that now we really care, because every person I know that is Gen Z votes. And I don't just mean votes. I mean, like, they're like, did you see the Jan 6 committee yesterday, dude? Like politics is our new football.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
That's great. I can appreciate that. That's awesome. So Tony, look, clearly I could talk to you for hours. You have to promise to come back now that I'm not as scary a stalker as I seem. Hopefully you'll come back in the fall and tell us what you're up to.
For sure.
But for now, tell everybody where they can find you. What are your platform handles and what services you provide? Run it all down.
So I am on Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube. Every one of those places, if you just put in blk.thought, dot as in period, blk.thought, you will find me. We're growing on each and every platform. I think we're across all 3 platforms. I think we're closing in on 200,000, which is insane.
That's awesome.
Yeah. We do actually different services, marketing and promotional services and partnerships. But I'm actually working on, like I said, a few projects. I actually have a Activate Your Rights class that I'm building out, online class, which I've noticed, I noticed there's like a spot for that. And there are people who are currently doing it, and no shade to them, do your thing. But they have like their classes at like $40, $60. And I want mine to be like somewhere between 5 and 10.
That's dope. That is so dope that you're trying to make it economically affordable. That's dope. I appreciate it.
Yeah, it's needed. It's needed.
Right.
And like I said, I'm working on a comic. Hopefully I'll actually do like a series of comics of Black historical icons, just kind of telling their story through comics, because I mean they don't have movies.
Yeah, and you know what? You are a great storyteller. It's clear. So to put it in that sort of format, that would be so cool and make it accessible to younger kids. I love that.
Yes.
So you also provide a service. So I want to get that in here too, right? You help people grow their platforms.
I do actually. Yeah. If you'd like to grow and you need someone to help you out with that, I can do that. I actually, believe it or not, I'm so bad at charging people. I really am, because I get a lot of requests, and I just like give away so much free game. I'm just like, here, take this. This is my guide on this. This is my guide on this. This is my guide on this. And I'm terrible at actually charging people. But I've noticed though that even like not charging the vast majority, or not charging a good amount of people, a lot of people really still do kickbacks and like really give back to me. So that is phenomenal. I know that our community is not one that is selfish, and that is great. And don't get me wrong, I am a lot better at charging people now than I was before.
Good.
So
it's a process. We have to realize our value as well.
Exactly.
I get like that too, but we have to realize our value. I mean, people respect,
Yes, my grandmother is the one that actually got me to actually do that. So
good.
Yeah.
Good for grandma. Okay, so this show is about changing the narrative in this country. What do you propose needs to happen to move forward with changing the narrative?
Oh, that's a tough one, man.
I know. I thought we'd finish on that and give you the final word.
Ooh, I think to change the narrative, we need to, that's tough. I would love us to come back together like how we did during the, Malcolm X, Martin, Black Panther times. I think that during that specific time, Black unity was unrivaled throughout the rest of time in the United States, as far as power attainment goes. Because I think we had attained a ton of power there during those times. The issue is, the FBI and the US government kind of killed off all the Black leaders from that time.
That's exactly what happened.
So, but I think that coming back together like how we were during that time and standing up ourselves like how we were during that time and supporting ourselves like how we were at that time, I think would be integral to our success. There's a saying, I can't remember who said it, but there's a saying that when we desegregated the buses, all the Black bus companies went out of business because no one wanted to ride anymore. And I, which is not me saying that we need to segregate again, but it's me saying that if we had stayed unified, if we continue to be unified, we won't have that issue.
It's your final word. I appreciate you, brother. This was so much fun. You're, like I said, you're a delight. You're such a compassionate person, and it's really been just such a special conversation that I really appreciate. I really do hope you do come back, and I wish you nothing but the best.
Well, I know when my comic eventually gets done, I have to promote it somewhere.
Yeah, let's do it. Let's do it. Count on me. Count on me. All right, Tony, take care.
You too.
All right, brother. See you.
Bye-bye. See you.
Bye.